Hey everyone, well, we are back again with our final stream or final recording of the season for the regular season or for the fantasy football season, I guess we should say. Joined here just by Cade and Codes. We did the three of us this week with it being the finals, and we will have another show either next week or the week after, sometime soon, with the award ceremony and all that fun stuff. But for now, we are ready to talk about the playoffs and the finals. So we went ahead and dressed our Sunday best for this occasion, as this is it. I mean, this is the first time that we'll be handing out the championship, the first full season playthrough, and two teams from the Division of Death have made it to the end. But before we dive into everything, Code, Cade, how are you gentlemen doing this evening?
Pretty good
Doing great.
today. Little tired, but we're in it. We're loving it. We're loving where everyone's ended up.
Yeah. Code, good for you as well, sir.
Yep, doing great.
Good stuff. All right, let's take a look at our bracket. So it has updated a bit, and we'll touch on each one here very briefly before we continue on. We'll start at the bottom. Toilet bowl bracket, we've got the Webster Tigers at 0-2 and Lose Like Flynn at 2-0. Webster Tigers trending towards going to see that wonderful movie. Justin Zelli and the Implications both at 1-1. There's a weird pathway here from doing too much research. There's a weird pathway where um, Lose Like Flynn, Justin Stelly, and the Implications can tie all at 2-1, and it becomes a points four battle. If Implications beats Lose Like Flynn and Justin Stelly beats the Webster Tigers, they're all 2-1, which is then a head-to-head matchup, but they've all beat each other, so it would quite literally be
Wow.
points four situation. Opposite side, if Webster Tigers wins this week against Justin Stelly, they're both 1-2, and Webster Tigers holds the tiebreaker over Justin Stelly, so Justin Stelly would have to go see the movie. That being said, if the Implications also lose like Flynn, that would create three teams at 1-2. They all beat each other, so it goes to points four again. So the toilet bowl bracket's still completely up in the air for what
Wow.
that all looks like down
Yeah.
there. Extra pick bracket is done. That is it. Team Havoc wins the extra pick. They will have 1.13. Any of their picks will also count
Over.
as the fifth pick in the draft. The Watson's 25th masseuse will end up with a sixth pick in each of the rounds that they have picks in still. Can't remember if they have any picks. I know that Cade, I don't think you have any of
I don't
yours.
think so.
You might have your third. Watson's has his third and fourth. Um,
Yep.
so some implications there. In the fifth place game, Brownout defeats Dan Flashes, as I think a lot of us expected. So Brownout will end up with the seventh pick in each round. Dan Flashes with the eighth pick in each round there. So that's all done and said. So four teams are not playing for anything this week. Brownout, Dan Flashes, Team Havoc, and Watson's 25th Masseuse all have nothing to play for whatsoever. Um, the other eight teams in the league, though, fighting for their lives. As we look at the third place game between Raggy and Diamond Dogs, winner of that one gets $50. In addition, their picks will be the 10th spot. So I know we talked about the fifth place game in the extra pick bracket and how their games, whoever won got the better pick or the higher pick. That is not the case for the third place game. The third place game just decides who comes in third place. They get a later pick, but they get that $50 for their spot. But really, the grand prize brackets we've been paying attention to: Meg Fullbacks Red again and Kung Su Pandas, last two teams standing that have made it all the way to the finals. Surprises here. I mean, Kung Su Pandas has been a favorite to win this since week 5 or 6, I would say. I think
Yeah.
everybody expected it to be Brownout early on, but it's evolved into Kung Su Pandas. But then Fullbacks Great again has snuck their way through and to the final. Where do you guys see this? Like, is this shocking you, this matchup, or did we expect? I mean, you two are the in the haters group of Ruggie was fake, but did we expect Kung Su Pandas against Fullbacks Great again, or what were you thinking was going to happen here as we get this to this point here?
Well, I wasn't exactly expecting this. I mean, I think it's hard to just choose like two teams, be like, yep, these two are the finalists. The season was pretty good. There were some teams who traded spaces, and it was looking kind of decided at the beginning, but it switched up as we got into things. So wasn't exactly expected. I did know Raggy was going to go down somewhere, and he did. And, that's that. But it could have been him. I can't say it couldn't have been him. Um, I just had a feeling that he was going to go down. But I'm content with where it is. I'm excited to see this final game.
Coda, what about you? Obviously, as the Diamond Dogs, losing hurts, but Kung Fu Pandas has been a favorite, like we said, for so long. Did you predict the game going this way? Did you think that they would kind of overtake you? I know it's a coin flip half the time, but how did you see this game going? And did you kind of expect it to be the Pandas in the end, or did you think you had it?
I mean, it's hard. I lost Jalen Hurts. Obviously, that's a big deal. And then I think I had like 2 goose eggs in the semifinals, which I hadn't had a single goose egg from a player all year. So it is what it is. But I mean, the way that the Division of Death has like just kind of evolved over the years, or the year, I guess. I mean, yeah, Pandas was a power ranking favorite, from the start almost.
Right.
And then to see what Cam Hoon's been able to do with that roster, completely retooling it from the startup draft and make it all the way to the finals, it's very commendable. Both managers deserve great props for doing what they're doing.
I don't
And,
know where. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say, and I just hope that both of those roster players bring their best performances, because it definitely hurts to have what happened to me happen in the semi. So
Yeah.
I don't want them to experience pain, but someone's got to win. Someone's got to be the loser. Someone's got to win. So it is what it is.
My phone is misplaced at the moment, but I looked through the roster. 66% of the roster was not drafted by Cam Hoon. Less than half of his starters were players he traded for.
Transformation for sure, yeah.
Yeah, so incredible stuff there. Fun fact of the day, Rutro Raggy would have lost or did lose their game to Fullbacks Grid again. Rutro Raggy would have beaten either Kung Fu Pandas or Diamond Dogs if they had played. So
right.
That's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes in fantasy football. The team that gets eliminated scored more points than the other 2 teams, but that's where we're at right now. So yeah, let's really dive in. We'll quickly touch on stuff. Prediction for 3rd place winner. Code, we'll start with you, even though you're super biased. Who do you think wins that one? We're not going to talk about Toilet Bowl. We're not going to talk about the extra pick because it's done, the 5th place game because it's done. Toilet Bowl's got too many what ifs or this or that. That's just a mess. But 3rd place game and a quick prediction from your side. Who do you think wins that one? Rut or Raggy, or do you think you take it home?
Again, on principle, I can't really make a prediction. But I will say it's going to obviously come down to Mahomes and Kelsey. They're playing at home against Denver. We know the Broncos are an absolute clusterfuck. So, I mean, yeah, they could put up 50 burger on the Broncos, and if the Chiefs do that, then I don't see a world where I win. But you never know. It's fantasy football, so I'll leave it at that.
Kate, what do you think? Currently projected 169 to Raggy for 155 for the Diamond Dogs.
Yeah, I mean, Dogs have been they've been getting hit hard. Obviously the Hurts loss, to kind of put him back. Looks like he's back this game.
Yeah, that's the plan.
He's pushing to play, which, I mean, if you want my unbiased opinion as an Eagles fan, I don't really know if it's absolutely necessary. I mean, Minshew did a damn good job against the Cowboys, and I feel like you could trot Minshew out there and beat the Saints pretty handily.
And then
and not risk Jalen Hurts' injury.
Where's Henry?
I believe he's doubtful for this game because this Thursday game doesn't really make much sense for the Titans to play him.
It's looking dicey. It really does come down to if Raggy performs. I mean, I know I give the guy a lot of hate. Yeah. He has a fat roster. That's part of the reason why he made it so far. So, we're just going to need the players to show up. Obviously, I'm always going to pull for codes, even if it is against another friend, because it's just like that. But it looks like Raggy could slip this one out. And we wouldn't hate him for it, so just for other things. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say that Raggy might pull this one out, especially if the Mahomes Kelsey stack works. I mean, I hate talking about it. Also, I mean, just Brady, he's pissed. He's been pissed for games.
And they're still playing for playoffs, so
yeah, this has just not been his season, and I think he has a little bit to prove. So if he shows up, it can be completely different too.
Yeah, Brady's worst game of the fantasy football season so far, by the way, against the Carolina Panthers, who he's playing this week. So that's honestly the wild card for me. I think you look at the rest of the roster here for Raggy. Latavius Murray, since taking over that role, has been very consistent and at least getting some points. He's had these boom weeks, but his bust weeks have been 8, 9, which isn't a lot, but it's been enough. Zeke, Thielen, Higgins, A. Jones, Kelsey, Cook, Connor, like everything else is good there. It really just comes down to Brady. But the difference is also it's Brady versus Mike White in the super flex spot right now. So even if Brady has an off game, you can kind of see a world where he still scores more than Mike White. Obviously, Mike White did well against Chicago, but against Minnesota and Buffalo, not so much. But he's going up against Seattle this coming week, so we'll see how it goes. But my thoughts lean towards Raggy winning, but we'll have to kind of see how that goes. Let's move on to.
We'll just have to see it shake out.
Yeah, let's move on to our finals match, and let's talk about first the Kangsu Pandas. We've got on your screen right now their 15 top players on their team. Currently, the 10 players that are starting or that we project to start, with 5 additional players that are their key depth pieces. So that's what we've got. Let's run through them real quick. We've got Kirk Cousins, Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, Keenan Allen, DK Metcalf, Tyreek Hill, Mark Andrews, Mike Williams, Alvin Kamara, and Geno Smith are currently in the starting spots here. Key bench players or players that are currently on the bench. I kind of expect at least Lamar Jackson to move in to the starting lineup, probably for, really either one. But Lamar Jackson here on the bench. We've also got Davis Mills for some extra depth, but he's not on here because he's not a real football quarterback. What is it? Zonovan Knight is there as well. We've got Deontay Johnson there. We've got Robert Woods, who's not shown. Cole Kmet, and then who did I miss?
Patterson's the guy you're
Cordell Patterson. Yep, Cordell Patterson's sitting there as well. So lots of star power here. I think when you look at the Kangsu Pandas roster, Tyreek Hill went so cheap in the auction draft, and everybody was ragging on him because he's switching teams. But dude's number 2 wide receiver. He's putting up points. He's got Mark Andrews there, who is just an advantage over any other tight end in the league except for Kelsey. Keenan Allen is finally back in form after being out all season. Has put up his lowest points were 12, followed by 15.
How is Allen on a 1 year?
Huh?
I think Allen's on a 1 year.
Keenan Allen?
Yep.
Is he
Gonna force that re-sign now that he stepped up.
He is on a 1 year deal. Yeah.
No pressure, Pandas.
Josh Jacobs is obviously fantasy football RB, or was RB1. Just having incredible games. Has had a bit of a slip recently. He's now currently RB3. But so many different dynamic top players here for Kangsu Pandas. Their roster just from top to bottom. Like you look at their bench players could be starting players for more than half the other league, I would think. If you switch out Lamar for Geno still goes somewhere else, and Geno's still statistically number 7 overall player on the year, let alone quarterback. Lamar at number 14. You've then got Kirk Cousins, who's sitting at number 8. Like, it's just things are clicking for the Kangsu Pandas at the right time. Currently projected at 165 to make fullbacks great again at 155. That's without Lamar, and Lamar would give an extra 4-point bump in the projections here. Are there any areas of weakness or concern for you guys? We could really dive in the matchups if we wanted to. Josh Jacobs going up against San Francisco is scary. DK Metcalf going up against the Jets is scary. Tyreek Hill up against New England could be scary. Mark Andrews in a divisional game against Pittsburgh, who've been playing very well recently, could be scary. Both the receivers, Keenan Allen and Mike White, are going up against the Rams, which isn't terribly scary, but they have Jalen Ramsey, so Jalen Ramsey's probably on one of those, who hasn't been Mr. Wonderful, but doing okay. Alvin Kamara against the Eagles defense is scary. Geno Smith against the Jets defense is scary. There are things to be concerned about here, but do you guys think it's enough that Kangsu Pandas and Unicorn Bolt need to worry, you think, or are they, should they be comfortable? Are these players above the matchups? Because you've got players who it doesn't matter who they play, you play them.
Right.
Any of these sound too scary for you that you would have pause in starting them immediately, or do you think there's nothing to worry about?
You got to be concerned about the 49ers matchup for Josh Jacobs because they got Jarrett Stidham at quarterback. You don't know if they can sustain drives and whatnot. You have to start Jacobs because you're probably not playing CPAT with Algier getting the workload that he gets.
Right.
If you look at the division of death as a whole in general, and you look at Brownout's roster versus Kangsu Panda's roster, I believe there'd be like a 60-40 lean that the team Brownout have a better roster, But Kungsu Pandas are so balanced everywhere. They really don't have any glaring weaknesses, and that's why it's really hard to beat them. The thing with Camehoon's roster, we can really get into after Kate gives his take on this, is that Camehoon does have some spots that are slightly weaker. He does have those guys at his wide receiver 1, QB1 slots that are just absolutely hitting.
Don't
And when you have that star power, that that matters.
don't mention
we'll-
Purdy.
We'll send it to Cade for his comments because he's clearly got something to say.
Before you get too excited about Purdy, how do you feel about this roster? I mean, top to bottom, star power, consistent, even, fair. You've got backups who again are starters on other teams, but
Yeah,
you know,
I mean,
didn't put up
I
points.
do see a lot of
last week.
options. Yeah, I see a lot of options here, and I mean, there's definitely a reason that he made it through playoffs. So I wouldn't really be concerned anywhere, per se. I mean, I see a lot of favorites here that I like, and I mean, Jacobs even like struggled a little bit last week, but I mean, it's tough. Like, is he going to bounce back? Is he going to experience the same thing that everybody else who's played the 49ers defense has experienced? So it's like a little bit of risk there, but I mean, I think he's going to be just fine. I don't really see anything that is too alarming for me. And I do like the idea of, I mean, it's it's going to be good. I know that. I think we're going to put up a lot of points, get in the high 100s. If everyone went off, all these guys have the ability to get way more than their projection.
Right.
So it could be a 200-point game, but everything kind of needs to fall into place perfectly for that.
When we look at the playoff schedule for Josh Jacobs too, he's had his worst 2 weeks of the year. I mean, not
Yep.
actually accurately, but for the most part, like some of his worst weeks of the year, and they've been against good defenses. New England, number 1, if I'm not mistaken, against the rush. Then the Steelers defense, who's really started to come online. Now the Niners defense, who's number 5, I think, against the run. And that's just that's scary because we were having these weeks from Josh Jacobs of 37.5, 33.3, 39.5, 48.3 against Seattle, just like crazy numbers, and we've come back down to
ridiculous
earth.
numbers.
13 against New England, projected 17 points, so projected 18, only got 13. Projected 18, only got 6 against Pittsburgh. We're projected 16.5 against San Francisco. Could totally see this going down again, especially now that you consider the Raiders have announced they're not starting Derek Carr and they're going with what's his butt.
Yeah.
You know, that totally could be a stack the box game for the Niners, and their run defense is already so good they don't even need to truly stack the box. Is there a world where either of you consider moving Josh Jacobs out of the lineup for one of these other guys? I mean, I don't think the answer. I think if you say yes, you're crazy. But are you? Zonovan Knight's been looking good. Cordell Patterson has shown that he can do things.
Yeah,
Would you
has,
consider
yeah.
doing that at all? I mean, you could also throw
mean-
Deontay Johnson in as a flex, move Kamara up to your RB2. You know, is that something you would even consider, or do you just leave Josh Jacobs in there because
The Johnson
holy shit,
move
the year he's
is
having?
the most legit out of those options you just mentioned, but it's still a risk. Risk reward. What are we going to manage? How are we going to triage the situation? I would just leave him in and count on him. Sometimes, I mean, all the time we're counting on these guys, but especially here, we just kind of have to like let it ride, is what I would say. You make a substitution, and then the homeboy you throw in gets 6 points, and then he does fine against the Niners and gets 20.
Right.
You're gonna feel like a clown.
Right. That would suck.
Whereas if he just has a bad game, you did what you could.
Right. Code, what do you think? Same boat, or do you think there's another play here?
I mean, generally speaking, yeah, I agree because it would suck, for example, to bench Mark Andrews for Cole Kmet, and for Andrews to pop off. But Andrews going up against the Pittsburgh defense, very low total game. Cole Kmet against the Lions, that could end up being a shootout. So, I mean, yeah, it's hard, but that's why they're in this position. I'm not going to give them any advice.
Yeah.
They got to make the decisions for themselves.
Well, speaking of they, let's flip the side over here to the make fullbacks great against who we're working with here. Their current starting roster: Big Cock Brock Purdy, Ramondre Stevenson, Rashad White, CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, Devonta Smith, Greg Dulcich, DJ Chark, Tyler Boyd, Joe Burrow. The bigger depth pieces for these guys would be Gus Edwards, Antonio Gibson, obviously Dameon Pierce, but he's hurt right now. So we got Brandon Cooks, Traylon Burks, Chris Olave. Lots of youth on this roster. I mean, we made fun of Raggy for the old roster. Kung Su Panda, you could argue, is an old ailing roster with Chubb, with Jacobs, with Keenan Allen, with Alvin Kamara. But there's a lot of youth and a lot to be excited about here on this roster. Ramondre Stevenson, young. Rashad White is young. Devonta Smith is young. Joe Burrow is young. There's Traylon Burks, Chris Olave are both rookies this year. Brock Purdy has been playing well, and he's obviously a rookie himself. A lot to be excited about in the future, but do they have the roster to stack up against Kung Su Pandas? Starting at the quarterback position, sorry, Cade, biggest thing for me, Joe Burrow is that guy, and we know that. He's the best quarterback playing in the final here, number 4 overall, number 4 quarterback. But Brock Purdy, still bottom quarterback, still hasn't broken the top 32. Obviously hasn't played half the games in the season, so I understand that. But, has been looking okay, has been looking, 19, 20, a week of 25. So he's getting 20 points a game. Lamar is going to beat that. Kirk Cousins is going to get more than that. Geno Smith is going to get more than that. Do you think that Joe Burrow is good enough? Maybe this is a trick question for Kay, because he's going to say yes no matter what we say. But especially talking about, Joe Burrow, God forbid, and Brock Purdy in the same sentence. Is Joe Burrow and Brock Purdy, can Joe Burrow carry Brock Purdy to match whatever quarterback duo Kung Su Pandas wants to go with, whether it's Kirk and Lamar, or whether it's Lamar and Geno, or, what do you think, Kate? Can they stand up?
Yeah, I mean, I just have to take this moment and just,
Here we
weeks
go.
ago, months ago, if we said, hey, Kate, do you see a world, can we imagine a world where both Burrow and Purdy are absolutely long dick in the league? Who knows? I probably would have said yes, but I would have truly been talking out of my ass. But right now, they're performing. It's so great. It's so ironic. And they're doing great. I mean, realistically, you're right. He hasn't kind of came out with quite the star power that some of these other guys have, and the commanding sense on the field. It really seems like he stepped into a Niners team who's on a hot streak, who wants to win, who is working well, who they don't bash each other on the sidelines. They're not, fighting openly. They're not in a complete disarray. Even after they're losing their quarterback, they're just like, all right, well, let's step up. Let's do what needs to be done. So, he's kind of being carried by the team, but he's doing a good job of it. And so you can't hate when the guy's averaging, whatever, 19, 20, 21 points, whatever that averages out to.
Yeah.
You can't exactly hate, and you can't give him the world either because the team. But I mean, I just love it. And the Burrow thing, it's not even hate to you at this point in time. You trade people. He could have broken his freaking ankle,
Yeah.
the day after you trade him. So it's not like there was any right or wrong there.
Right.
It's just crazy how he is kind of stepping up. So, when you look over, it could be like Lamar. Like, I remember one of my first comments on Lamar: high upside, but tends to let you down. Pretty sure he hasn't practiced in months.
3 weeks. Yeah, it's been a while.
He's, so.
And rightfully so. I mean, he hasn't gotten that contract extension. He's probably
Exactly.
he might not even play this week, and then if that happens, does he even play the last week? Does he hit free agency?
So it's like these guys have a lot on their plate.
Value me.
These guys really have a lot on their plate. They're trying to figure out their real life issues over here, and we're just like, give me points, bitch. But and I think that he can, that both those quarterbacks can hold up. I think in a perfect world, they both pop off, and Cam wins. I mean, not solely because of that, but they are going to be massive factors. And I would say without them, he would not be here where he is.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah, I
But
can agree with that.
you can't hate on Pandas. It's gonna be tight. It's gonna be tough. But I mean, as long as they come out, they do their thing again, they're going to perform, and I'd say likely win if they go off. Which I mean, I would love to see them do. Everybody knows I'm kind of partial to them, and it's just super ironic that this dude is being paid more right now than Allen is worth in the third year of his
Then
dadgum
yeah,
contract.
seriously, it's kind of
Um,
nuts.
and then and then just hearing the lie when Cam says, "Yeah, I'm not really. I just picked him up just 'cause." No, dude, he's gonna give you this ring, and that's why he has that fat contract. So I don't know. We'll see. It's hilarious. Life is comedy.
Something else to look at too, we talked about some of the star power that we've seen on Kung Fu Pandas. Quietly, we've talked about some of the different wide receiver rooms that we've got in our league, right? We've talked about
Yep.
Watson's 25th masseuse has a scary wide receiver room. We've talked about how Dan Flashes has a scary wide receiver room with Cooper Kupp and A.J. Brown. Watson's obviously with DeAndre Hopkins and Amon-Ra St. Brown, among two or three others that are insane. But very, very quietly, top three, or excuse me, Devontae Adams, wide receiver number 4.
Yep.
CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver number 6. Devonta Smith, wide receiver number 9. 3 of the top 10 players, 3 of the top 9, if we want to do that, are here on Make Fullbacks Great Again. And I feel like that's not accounted for. Joe Burrow, again, quarterback number 4 right now. Ramondre Stevenson, currently running back number 8. Rashad White has absolutely taken over for Lenny, really, since the halfway point of the season, since the bye week. Double-digit points every week except for one of those weeks. So while these names aren't as big as maybe Tyreek Hill or big as Lamar Jackson, they have been keeping up. To me, when we get to the flex spot, that's where it gets scary. DJ Chark and Tyler Boyd are incredibly boom or bust. Quite literally to the point that we saw 17. DJ Chark projected 9 points last week, ended up with about 18. The week before that, projected 10, ended up with 2.8. The week before that, projected 9, ended up with 21. So DJ Chark is incredibly boom or bust. And then Tyler Boyd has shown he can do it and be a good number 3 in that offense. But again, boom or bust. 5 points last week, 15 the week before, 0 the week before that, 10 the week before that. And that's who he's currently relying on, he being Cam Hoon, in the flex spot. Now, Chris Olave could be back. He's number 24 right now, but he was not in last week. He looks like he was questionable this week, so he might play. Obviously not starting Treylon Burks there, but the flex is a big difference for me too.
Yeah,
You look
I
at
think the
strength
idea
everywhere
for
except
him
there.
is that he wants to try to not need flex. Really needs these other guys to go off. I mean, you look at Adams, he's on a couple down weeks. It's time for him to go off again. He has some scary points on the board. You're like, who the heck is this guy? I said it weeks ago. He's the best receiver in the damn league, at least in my humble opinion, which I'm wrong. Wesley's wrong often. Cade's not wrong often.
Yeah,
Like,
so reveal there, your name's not actually Cade Romero. That's never been brought up before, but your name is actually Wesley for
it is.
those of you.
Um,
So
Yeah, so apologies, guys. I'm a bold-faced liar. I needed to really embrace the writing personality. I think if we go back and look at the podcast with Zoinks, he low-key said it at one point in time early on. I wasn't sure if we were recording yet, so I wasn't sure if he outed me. But yeah, I wanted a complete personality for the writing, and then it just transferred over because, you know, Cade was the one who's picking up the team. Cade's the team manager, and it's great. So I'll go by Cade. I wouldn't be mad if you guys called me Wesley. There's no hard feelings here. Who's telling the truth? At this point in time, you can't trust either one of us.
can't
But,
trust either one of us.
but yeah, so it's back to it. I mean, we'll see what happens. The idea, Cam, is that you don't want to have to count on your flex. There's not the strongest options there, so just hope your guys go off. and hope everyone performs to where if it is a little rough, it doesn't matter.
Let's look at these two teams lined up next to one another as well, so it gets a little bit ambiguous here with all the stuff on the screen, but fullbacks great again on the left, Kangsu Pandas here on the right. I mean, this really should be a great finals, right? I mean, we've seen both these two teams put up incredible amount of points. We've seen both these two teams have a different style of playoff run, where fullbacks great again has taken down two players back to back after fighting for the spot in the last week. Really, these two teams also just played each other, mind you. They've played each other twice this year, something we have not discussed. They have played each other already twice this year. Make fullbacks great again has lost both of those matchups against them, so they are 0-2 against Kangsu Pandas. They'll be playing for a third time here in the finals. Played each other in week 13, so the last week of week 14, last week of the regular season, to see who would get the number 2 seed versus the number 5 seed. Kangsu Pandas took the win, has only played one game so far, and they're here in the finals. Fullbacks great again, lost, had to beat Dan Flashes, which they did. It was a not close game, but a good 25-point win there. Coming in last week again against Rotoraki, a 30-point win there, so some blowouts, whereas Kangsu Pandas in a nail-biter last week against the Diamond Dogs. But for 2 weeks in a row, Make Fullbacks Great Again is won by a pretty chunky margin. And we'll see if they can repeat here again.
That's kind of been their story. Like this whole kind of stretch of them just been blowing up with these big performances. And it's kind of hard to when you have consistent performers in your wide receiver spots and honestly at your quarterback spots.
Yeah. And to me, it really is. We'll go position by position here and just talk, and we'll talk about who's starting, who's in the whether they're in the flex spot or on the bench. We'll talk position group by position group, and give one side or the other the edge. Quarterbacks again, looking at fullbacks great again. Brock Purdy versus Joe Burrow versus Lamar Jackson, Kirk Cousins, Geno Smith. Code, we'll start with you. Which way do you give the edge in that matchup for the quarterback position?
To be honest, I have to lean fullbacks right again here, just because Burrow's going up against Buffalo. It's going to be a shootout. Purdy's playing the Las Vegas secondary, which is kind of a dumpster fire. And then for the Pandas, I mean, Kirk's going to have to throw to beat the Packers, but it's in Lambeau and it's cold. It's not going to be a fun game. We have no idea what's going to happen with Lamar Jackson, and if he doesn't play, you got to trot out Geno Smith, who, I mean, he hasn't been bad, but he's definitely been on like a downwards kind of trend. So I have to
does
give it
have
to,
Huntley, by the way. Worth mentioning, maybe if Lamar does not play this week, that Huntley is available. So still some options there with Kangsu Pandas. So you're going edge fullbacks then, Code?
For me, yeah, the edge at quarterback is absolutely the fullbacks.
Cade, what do you think when it comes to the quarterback position? Who do you give the edge to here?
Yeah, I mean, I like Code's reasoning here. I'm just kind of full of shit. But I mean, you guys know who my favorites are in this situation, and like I said, I think they're going to perform. I don't know. I think Purdy's worth it. I think he stepped into a really fortunate situation, and he's capitalizing, and we can count on that. It's kind of like their only option, and I mean, if it was that bad, they would have got someone else in there. You see that, coaches are not afraid to bring in a third string, do whatever they have, sign someone else to replace an option. But they've kind of left the team in his hands. I think he's going to do well. And then, I mean, you look at Burrow. Look at this guy's stinking stats, dude. Makes me sick.
Guy's a stud.
Makes me sick. So if he just does what he's capable of, it's not even an option. He's going to be smoking a stogie on the field after the game. So
that one pass touchdown, 6 points, is worth 60 yards from another player, and it's a very big deal when you think about it.
Edge for fullbacks. I mean, it's also, you can't count on Jackson. I said it 18 times throughout the season. He's very high upside, but he tends to let you down. And here we are, letting you down again.
For me, I'm going to go Kangsu Pandas, and I swear it's not just to have a split vote here. I love Joe. Brock's a system guy, and it's working, and that's great. I think that game's going to be a blowout where they just run the ball after the fact. and control the game, control the clock. I like the options. I like that you can go with Lamar / Huntley, right? Like we don't know who's going to be. Probably Lamar, hopefully Lamar. But you've got Geno, you've got Lamar, you've got Kirk, and I think that kind of gives you some time to make decisions. You can really look at how your game is going. This is a factor that I'm probably thinking way too much about. But all three of those quarterbacks start at 4:25 or later, like 4 or 5 or later. And they all play on Sunday. So you can kind of look and say, okay, my game is going well. Who do I think is the highest floor? You can say, okay, my game is going poorly. I'm putting Lamar in. I want a superstar week out of Lamar if we can get it, right? So I think that really does add some versatility in comparison to I'm stuck playing Burrow and Purdy. Now, stuck playing Burrow and Purdy is not bad by any means, but you don't have choices there where you can really say, my team is winning. They are blowing it out of the water. It's Kirk and Green Bay in the snow. I'm taking him out. Or, okay, I'm 100% going to rock with Lamar here because we need the points, or whatever it is. That's where it gets really interesting. The other piece that I really love about this matchup, as it's currently projected, is that all the points will be scored for Kangsu Pandas on Sunday, and then we'll have Burrow and Tyler Boyd for Make Fullbacks Great Again going on Monday nights. That'll be a game to watch to crown
storybook
really
finish.
Yeah, it absolutely could be. Continuing on to the next position, let's talk about running backs. Ramondre Stevenson, Rashad White, Antonio Gibson being like the three-headed monster for Fullbacks Great Again. We look at the other side, Josh Jacobs, Nick Chubb, Alvin Kamara, Zonovan White, and Cordell Patterson. I'll go first. It's just got to go to Make Fullbacks Great Again here, I think. I know that you've got Ramondre Stevenson, who is just incredible and is number 8 right now. But there's nothing after that for the running back position. I think it's just got to go their way. Rashad White, if Leonard has a good game, or if Lenny Fournette's hot, they're going to just keep feeding him, I think. Gibson has shown that he's losing this time continuously to Brian Robinson. But I think just Chubb and Jacobs alone are good enough. And then you throw Kamara, who's been inconsistent, sure, but I think Kamara is a great flex play. If you can have Kamara as your flex, I think it's worth it. And you've got some depth pieces to consider, but I just like the side of Fullbacks Great Again here. Code, what do you think?
You mean you like the side of Pandas?
Oh, yeah, I like the side of Pandas, excuse me. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm absolutely agreeing with you. And I'm gonna kind of piggyback off your take because they have flexibility, whereas fullbacks don't really have the flexibility at running back. They kind of have to start Ramondre and Rashad and hope that they both go off because, Gibson's either banged up or they're just running Robinson to the ground because he's young and has fresh legs.
Right.
You're not going to coin flip start Gus Edwards in a game against Pittsburgh when Dobbins is back. So it's kind of like with the quarterbacks, whereas fullbacks is locked into playing those two specific guys and just hoping that they perform. And they have been performing, but what's to say the train doesn't go off the rails? You can only stay hot for so long.
Right.
But I have to go with the Pandas just because they have more proven producers at that position and they have more options to go rifle through when they set their lineup.
Katie, what do you think? Is this a 3-0 for the running back position for the Pandas, or are you a believer in
It
what fullbacks
is.
have?
It is. They just are kind of like backed into a corner here regarding fullbacks again. So, they have much less options, and it's not that their options are unreliable. It's just that the options on Panda's team are incredibly reliable. Even in Kamara and the flex, it's all fun and games till he gets fucking 40 points again. So, anything's possible, and these guys have very high floors, very good track records, and I think this one's kind of easy for sure. This one's going to Pandas.
Moving on to the wide receiver position here, we've got Keenan Allen, DK Metcalf, Tyreek Hill, Mike Williams as our main players coming in there. For the side of Kungsu Pandas, opposite side, CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, Devonta Smith, DJ Chark, Tyler Boyd, Treylon Burks, Chris Olave. Edge, we'll start with you, Cade, since you've kind of been going second or last. Who do you think the edge goes to here?
Yeah, for the wide receiver room, it's nice to see Allen back. I was a Metcalf fan a while ago until he started talking about how he eats nothing but a bag of Skittles a day and he looks like that. It's like we all know it's roids. Clown. Zero integrity. But yeah, I mean, like I said, Adams is that guy for me. I think Lamb's been popping off a couple times too, kind of getting his mojo back. He had a little bit of a down bit right in the middle of the season. And that wide receiver room is just looking terrifying, and that's not even mentioning Smith. So I'm definitely gonna lean this one. I mean, you can't like just completely disrespect Boyd, but it's not like he's Chase or something. So it's not like I'm like, oh, dude, you're gonna win because you have Boyd. But yeah, he has a pretty nasty wide receiver room, and it's not that the Tyreek's not enough, and like I said, it's been nice seeing Allen back, but this one's gonna go to fullbacks great again. I mean, if these guys even do half of what they're capable of, I'm gonna get sticking 60, 70 points out of them. So, and that's being generous on the low side. I mean, they could easily all get 25, 30 points and just be despicable. So, will that happen? Who knows? It's unlikely, for all three to pop off at the same time. But, anything can happen in fantasy. And I think they have a better, a higher floor, so to speak.
Coda, what do you think here?
I think it's maybe a bit closer than initially when you look at it, but I still think I give the edge to fullback straight again, just because with CD, I mean, Dallas is still fighting for a better playoff spot. The Eagles are trying to secure that first round bye. Uh, Question mark on Devontae Adams, but I mean, he's still Devontae Adams, so you still have to start him. On the other side with the Pandas, I mean, they have Allen and Mike Williams in maybe a potential sneaky shootout against the Rams, just because it's in Los Angeles. Weather will be fine. Defenses, they're both like Um, I still think I give the edge to fullbacks here, but it's very close.
I agree. I think I go with fullbacks great again as well, which is crazy to me that I'm picking the side without Tyreek Hill. But when we looked at the numbers, was it 4, 6, and 9 are the ranks of those receivers right now? That's just incredible. And I think that Chris Olave coming back is a better flex play than Alvin Kamara, especially in the game against the Eagles coming up. Mike Williams is over there too, so it's a tough one here. This is the closest one I think for me, but I would go with make fullbacks great again, just because they have so much potential to just have incredible points there, and that's what we've seen them do, is have these games at the same time and win. Devonta Smith 24, 17, 20, 35. Last couple of games, Devontae Adams has been slipping. He's been able to kind of hide that, but who else is this rookie going to throw to? Before that, 40 points, 10 points, 6 and 3. So
it's a bounce back week for Adams. I'm telling you. Plus, if it's up to the Dolphins coaching staff, they're going to kill Tua.
Yeah.
Before his 25th birthday,
probably.
And I'm pretty sure he low key. Yeah, is he?
He's ruled out. He's not playing.
I told you he had a concussion on that hit.
Yeah.
I knew it, bro. They let him play the whole fourth quarter with another concussion. Like, dude is literally gonna be on the next Will Smith documentary, like about CTE in the NFL. Like, it's absurd. So that kind of limits Hill in a bit.
That's true.
At least, in my opinion.
You look at CD Lamb's last couple games, a little bit of a slower-ish start to the season. 41, 10, 27, or excuse me, 20.7. 20.4, 8.3, 22.7, 37. Like, CeeDee Lamb's coming on at the right time. It's a game against Tennessee, who has proven they are not a good team, despite their record.
Hurts.
Yeah, I think that it goes to fullbacks great again here. Moving to tight ends here as our last spot, and then we'll give the edge to either one of the teams here who we think is going to win. We've got Mark Andrews and Cole Kmet against Greg Dulcich. This is an easy one for me. Got to be Kung Su Pandas. Mark Andrews has been not playing well, or to the standard of Mark Andrews, but his weeks that he's having, 9, 4, 6, 7.5, like those are okay tight end numbers, and those are about even with Dulcich. Now Dulcich has 14 point weeks in 2 of his last 4 games, and he's come on 2, but I just think that if Mark Andrews has the games he was having earlier on in the season that we're used to, these 28, 22.9, 26.6 games, that's a whole extra player that comes on basically for the Kung Su Pandas.
That is all the difference.
And it's everything. And again, stuck with Dulcich against Kansas City, so they're going to have to throw the ball. So you've got that in your pocket, but there's no way that you could. I mean, I would say Cole Komet I'd take over Dolce too. So it's like this is 100% Kung Fu Pandas, and if you disagree, I think you're crazy. Either of you guys disagree?
It's pretty handily a Kung Fu Panda's advantage.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, Andrews is a favorite for me. I've talked him up throughout. I mean, he is kind of trolling lately, but I mean, low-key, I'm gonna put an over/under on him this week and get some cash because I think he's got something to prove as this season's winding down.
And again, against the Steelers, so a team he's used to, familiar with, and hates. Currently, Andrews, by the way,
Yeah.
is number 73 overall in PPR. Greg Dulcich is 236 overall in PPR.
Yeah, that's quite a gap.
Yeah, huge gap. Cole Komet is number 139 overall. So that's just a big, big difference between these two. Final prediction time before we wrap this bad boy up. Overall prediction: make fullbacks great again, or Kung Fu Pandas make fullbacks great again. It still doesn't play the fullback, by the way. Boom or bust to the extreme. Some of the highest booms we've seen, some of the biggest booms we've seen, or some of the highest busts, or what, you guys know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Just dominant performances. 179, topped all playoff teams last week. Has done that before, but he's lost 2 to Kung Fu Pandas. Kung Fu Pandas has been consistent, constantly dropping a 150, almost at a minimum, it seems like, in each of the games he's played. 189 to get into the playoffs at the number 2 seed. But the week before that, make fullbacks great again, dropped 189. 166 for Kung Fu Pandas that week, 198 for Kung Fu Pandas that week. It's just they're like 150 is their floor, it seems like. Do we see the fullbacks boom being a big enough boom in this game? Code, we'll start with you first. Who do you give it to overall, fullbacks or the Pandas?
My gut's telling me Pandas, but my heart wants to say fullbacks just because they've been on such a hot streak, and it's really hard to stop when you're that hot. It's like in baseball when you just start hitting at the right time in the playoffs, you just go all the way. It doesn't matter how good you are. You're just making base hit after base hit. I mean, really is a coin flip, man. But I think my official prediction is going to be the Kung Fu Pandas taking it home.
Cade, what do you think? Vote for the Pandas or vote for the fullbacks here?
Yeah, I'm gonna go for fullbacks. I mean, it's definitely tight. It's hard to just like count someone winner, count someone out. I mean, I know that that's the whole point of what we're doing, but to me, if everyone on both teams pops off, it's gonna be tough. But I see a little bit higher possibility out of some fullbacks players, not just because of favoritism, but just because there's some things I've seen throughout the year, and some
matchups like we talked about.
Yeah, some matchups, some personal predictions. So I'm gonna go to Cam Hoon, and don't let me down, or I'll never trust you ever again. I mean,
best of luck, coach.
Yeah, I'll stay.
Play ball.
To keep it at a split vote between the three of us. Here's what I'll say: if fullbacks wins, it's because Joe Burrow on Monday night in primetime in Buffalo does his thing, and that would win the game for fullbacks. If the Pandas win, I think it's because Mark Andrews comes back into form and basically adds another player, because again, the tight end position is so feast or famine.
Points.
12 points is a whole other flex player. And quite honestly, with the boom or bust that we've seen from DJ Chark and Tyler Boyd in the flex spot, if one of them busts and Mark Andrews has a game, he's got a 2-player advantage, and that's too much for anybody to overcome, no matter how good those receivers are, no matter how good Ramondre's looked, no matter how good Burrow's looked. That's it. So that's what I'll say. Fullbacks will win because of Burrow, or the Pandas will win because of Mark Andrews. But we'll wait a week and see. What will be fun, though, is we are talking to, or I will be talking to both Unicorn Bolt and Cam Hun, and doing an interview with each of them, and we will release those this week before the games begin as well. Was hoping to have a bit more progress there, but my schedule's been all over the place, and so it hasn't happened yet. but that is the plan soon, so keep an eye out for those as they come out sometime this week. I will also be seeing Cam Hoon, probably still on Saturday. So I wanted to do like a live interview in person with him, but it's going to be New Year's Eve, and I just feel like that's going to be a disaster, so it probably won't happen, but we'll see him soon. But really looking forward to hearing how happy they are with their seasons and how they think the playoffs go, and all that stuff as well. Probably talking with Unicorn Bolt maybe tomorrow, and then I got to reach out to Cam Hoon again to see what the story is there. So keep an eye out for those. Just some more content coming your guys' way. But I really think that we talked about everything. I can't imagine we have any more things to say with this matchup in particular. But Code, we'll start with you. Any final thoughts that you've got here as we wrap this up? Our last show of the season, really focused on the season itself.
Yeah, final thoughts before the actual awards episode that'll be next week or week after or whatever.
Right.
Just a great season. Thank you all for making this such a fun, enjoyable experience. We love doing this, and we hope that you guys stick around. We don't want any orphans.
Yeah. Everybody's paid for, so I can't imagine someone goes anywhere. But
Right.
You never know.
Yeah.
So, Cade, final thoughts from you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna echo what Code says. I mean, it's been an honor. I remember always putting that, just saying thank you, and it's an honor in the reviews and the matchups, trades, all of it. I mean, and it really is. It's great seeing everyone kind of grow, seeing everyone's strategy, seeing everyone's takes on things, having different viewpoints, being able to learn and grow together as, a league, even though we all are on a different team, so to speak. We're all also on the same team. So best of luck to both coaches, both squads going into the finals. And yeah, it's been a hell of a ride.
Yeah, been great so far. So for those of you that did not see it in Sleeper, what's going to happen here over the next couple of weeks is obviously we've got our game today, or game soon. Once that's done, we'll have an award show that'll just be kind of fun. And then we will have rules changes. We're going to have those happen before we kind of wrap it all up. This way everything's fresh in our brains. So I will have a video out of just me talking about all the different proposals to rule changes that will then come with a form for you to fill out, basically voting yes or no for each one. Those forms are not going to be anonymous. You will I will know who has voted which way. It doesn't change anything. It's just this way I can hound the teams and the owners that haven't gotten their votes in yet. I will not be voting. I will be abstaining from the vote as commissioner. Code as co-commissioner will be voting, but he will kind of be like that tiebreaker vote if any of those scenarios occur. But there's already that 6-page, I think it's now 7-page document that I typed up that's in our channel somewhere for the rule changes. But I will turn that into a video form to upload here onto YouTube with breaks and the chapters and everything, so you can just, if you need more explanation or more clarity on them, you can click on it. As also throughout that process, you can reach out to me if you have questions or concerns about them. I can also point you towards people who submitted the idea that can maybe champion why they like it more, or to somebody who maybe hates the idea, so they can tell you why they think it's a terrible idea. One of the things we'll be voting on there is when we re-sign our players. So obviously at the end of the year, all of our players' contracts will move forward a year. So a lot of work to be done on our spreadsheet that we'll take care of, but also removing all those players from the team. I was originally going to do that, it said by the end of the Super Bowl, but a lot of people have kind of mentioned, hey, I'd like to see how these players do, if they get released as free agents, if they get traded in the draft, or whatever the case may be. So we might kind of hold off on doing that until the end of the draft, and then we'll go from there. Right after that, on the 1st of May, once that month hits the 1st, we'll go ahead and start to talk about when we're going to do the rookie draft. It is going to be a weird slow draft, a modified slow draft is what I called it. What I mean by modified is that the first round, every pick will be announced probably at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. Eastern. So even if a player picks at 9:01 Eastern, it will not be announced until the following day. We'll kind of do it almost like the NFL draft, where it's kind of announced one at a time. A little bit more fun, but I think it'll allow for a lot of trading and all that good stuff. So we'll determine when that starts. We want to make sure it doesn't conflict with anybody's vacations or schedules or holidays or anything they might have going on if they're out of town or can't see anything or can't get into trade talks. Round 2 will be a 24-hour slow clock. That's a normal slow draft, so once somebody picks, it goes to the next person. Round 3 will probably be like that as well. Round 3 and 4 probably a 24-hour slow draft. If that's taking too long, we'll speed it up to 12-hour slow draft with pauses overnight, so this way it doesn't affect anybody who's, if you're sleeping and it's your turn, you don't get screwed. Once that rookie draft is done, we'll start to do the veteran auction, and that'll have to be done by August 1st. This way, that gives us about a month-ish into the season for trading and all that good stuff too. So that's kind of what our outline looks like over the next few weeks. And so it was super long-winded. There's a cute little text file of that in our sleeper chat, though. Appreciate you guys as always for tuning in. Another long episode for us, but this is it. It really comes down to Kangsu Pandas and the fullbacks, and we made it. The end of the first season. We'll see who takes the first trophy home. Talk to you guys soon. Have a good rest of your night, and good luck to everybody in their last games of the season, whether you are in the finals or whether you are competing to not watch that movie or you're competing for third place, whatever it looks like. There's 8 of us still playing this week. For the 4 of you that have the week off, enjoy the week off of no stress in fantasy football, and for the 8 of us left, good luck.